An unusual choice that has raised eyebrows. The circumstances around the country's bid to host the event are clouded in suspicion of undue influence and bribery. The estimated $200 billion spent to build the necessary infrastructure has been criticized as economically and environmentally unsustainable, and the international attention it garnered has shed light on the country's poor human rights record, whether it's the plight of migrant workers or of the LGBT+ community. With that in mind, is it still worth hosting such an event for Qatar? Well, to help us with this question and many others, let's speak with Alexis Antoniades. He's an associate professor and director of international economics at Georgetown University, and he's joining us live from Doha. Thank you so much for being with us on People and Profit, Professor. You've made the argument that this World Cup has succeeded in one thing, and that's getting the Qatar brand out there for the world to see. The case in point here is that your calculation of the number of mentions of Qatar on Twitter before and after they got the bid. And your argument is to say that this is a crucial element in Qatar's economic development beyond its oil and gas industry. Can you tell us more about this?
Indeed. Thanks. So winning the rights to host the World Cup on December 2nd, 2010, literally put Qatar on the map. If you were to look at monthly mentions of Qatar on Twitter the weeks and months before, you would get a few hundred per month, best case. But what happened right after? Everybody was tweeting about Qatar. Maybe in the beginning they were asking, is there such a country? Where is this country? Should Qatar win the rights? But the result was that the mentions of Qatar on Twitter increased a lot in the periods after and kept rising. So you went from a horizontal line to an upward sloping line. So it did put Qatar on the map. Now, the second part to your comment is an important one. Why do we need to put Qatar on the map? Well, Qatar as a brand is very important. If you want to attract businesses, if you need to attract tourism, if you want to attract FDI, people need to know the country and to know good things about this country. So it did bring some scrutiny, which is fair, but it also brought knowledge about the country.
You talked about the scrutiny here. So what about negative publicity? Can't this be actually detrimental to future foreign investment, for instance? Or is it just a case of, I don't care what you say about me, just make sure you spell my name correctly?
No, that's definitely not the case. When you bid to host the rights for a mega event, you know that you will face scrutiny. And if you don't want to face the scrutiny, you don't bid for it. If you don't want to make changes, you don't bid for it. What the Qataris have done, they knew that by bidding for the World Cup, they could offer an amazing event, but at the same time, it would help them expedite those reforms and work with their partners. And we have seen that in the much criticized labor markets in the country, all the reforms that took place.
We're mentioning here, for example, the kafala system, which was a way that tied together employers or migrant workers in Qatar with their employers and made them entirely dependent on their employers for their movements. And officially, this system, this kafala system, has been revoked. There are issues with implementation here, but in your argument, in your vision here, what is the future of the migrant community and these migrant workers within Qatar? Can we see them further integrated within society, within getting even full-fledged citizenship?
As you rightly pointed out, the kafala system was abolished a few years back. Qataris have been very open and transparent about the changes they are making and the fact that, of course, there can be even more changes. And that's why they have invited the ILO to be in the country. So integration also means that the laborers can be part of the economy, right? So it's economic access and giving them more opportunities. So I think as Qatar is growing and diversifying, the migrant population and the laborers will interact more with society, with markets, with the economy.
And how do we ensure that the scrutiny that the World Cup has brought continues beyond the end of the tournament to continue into these reforms that you say Qatar wants?
At the end of the day, what they want to do is promote the Middle East, promote Qatar, attract businesses to come. And if you don't maintain those policies, if you don't enforce them, if you don't continue to improve and reform labor markets, companies will think twice. So you will not capitalize on the hundreds of billions you have spent. So I don't see them going back in those policies.
And parallel to the World Cup bid, Qatar developed its own sports industry. For instance, with its beIN Sports TV network that's now available around the world, or with QSI, the group that owns the Paris Saint-Germain football club here in Paris. Would you consider that to be part of this diversification effort for the economy of the country? And is that a sustainable industry going forward?
Yes, I think it's one of the chains, but it's not diversification. It's not just going into sports. But naturally, because there's just so much interest in sports, there's so much attention around sport events, and then there is so much spending and infrastructure on sports and mega events. One of the areas that Qatar will be pursuing is hosting such events, but also investing in sports. And you brought the example of PSG. But it's just one of the different areas for diversification.